It's time for Ask Mike Mondays. Mike answers one listener's question every week. Here's Michael Becker and Paul Peebles.
Welcome to Ask Mike Mondays. I'm your host, Paul Peebles, National Underwriter for Old Capital, and I'm the smartest man in the room, Mr. Michael Becker.
Hey, Paul.
How are you?
Doing well.
And as you know, Michael is the former banker that turned from making big commercial loans into actually owning lots of real estate. He has gone from owning, say, 7,000 apartment units. Longtime banker, as I said. Now he has as many units as a small city.
That's right.
His group at SPI, they know what they're doing in the Texas market. So, Michael, how are things going with SPI?
I'd say still it's a little frustrating here lately. We've been working on a lot of stuff without a whole lot of results, but hopefully that's going to change here shortly and try to get a couple on the scoreboard for the good guys here soon.
Is that normal in this market, do you think?
It just seems like right now, the first part of 2019, the inventory on the marketplace is a little bit lighter than what it had been, say, this time last year, and then everything's just a little tighter and harder as we get longer and longer in the cycle. So just trying to make sure we stay disciplined and buy the right asset and not overpay, worry about basis, worry about location, by still trying to deliver, decent returns and decent yields along the way. So my job is much harder today than what it was, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
There's no doubt about that. Just give you kind of a heads up, Michael and everyone, that on March 30th, again, Hoops for Homelessness. We'd love to see you out there at SMU, the Southern Methodist University Fieldhouse. We're going to have a 3-on-3 basketball tournament supporting homelessness in children from the ages of almost 0 to about 17 that help them out of crisis. A lot of crazy parents out there these days, and we want to make sure that these kids are protected. So that's kind of our charity that we want you to participate in. Go to oldcapitalpodcast.com. Old Capital Podcast, either to sign up to play in the 3-on-3 basketball tournament or donate some money to this worthwhile cause. Second thing, the doctor is making another house call up in the Grapevine, Colleyville, Texas area. Again, Dr. Dotzer, Mark Dotzer, will be with us on April the 3rd. Mark, if you know about Dr. Dotzer, he's a fantastic economist. He kind of is, I would say, a little bit of a futurist, kind of tell us a little bit about what's going on not only today, but what you can expect in commercial real estate, single-family real estate, sense of the market, business, everything. This guy is the whole deal. Michael, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, it takes a pretty, what could be a dry subject matter and injects some humor and makes it very entertaining along the way. So last year we had almost or over 500 people show up to hear Dr. Dotzer speak. One of the things I like to say is the first time I saw Dr. Dotzer speak, Paul and I each paid about $100 a ticket to go see him speak at a Fort Worth Chamber business. It was a commercial real estate of a realtors association, and so Paul's going to pick that tab up for you guys, and it's free. You just got to go to oldcapitalpodcast.com and register. And Paul's paying the $100 instead of you guys, so it'll be a good event for you to come out and go see.
Yes, I will. So come out and join us on April the 3rd. Question for Ask Mike Mondays, and let me just kind of ask. Seems like a simple question, but Michael, what should an asset manager do? And then kind of a follow-up on that is that when you own a smaller property, you kind of are the manager. You kind of maybe the self-manager that handles the day-to-day business. But when you start to get larger, your job is really two things: find money out there and find properties. So it's also really two things. But then who operates your buildings? And that's kind of an asset manager. So when you're in a small role, that's could be you. But when it becomes a larger role, it could be somebody that you have to hire. So Michael, what should an asset manager do? Yeah,
like Paul was mentioning, when you first start out, you do everything from being the administrative person to the CEO and everything kind of in between. So, one of the functions is obviously when you own a deal and you employ the services of a third-party management company, you need to kind of manage the management company essentially. And that's kind of what we refer to as asset managed. So you're not necessarily doing all the day-to-day, but you're staying on top of them. You're making sure you monitor them to make sure that they're staying on budget or beating budget, doing better on the revenue, meeting or exceeding on the revenue side, and trying to contain expenses as much as possible on the expense side, and then dealing with, any sort of escalated issues that might pop up, like, hey, a boiler went out, it's going to cost us $10,000 to replace it, or, things along that nature. But, those are the things that you do. On top of that, asset manager has to deal with property tax protests. So it's not necessarily something that the property management company does. That's really more on the ownership. So working with your tax consultant to make sure that you guys are on top of filing the property tax protest, which in Texas is a big deal. It's a big deal everywhere, but in Texas in particular, is a larger deal because it's just a bigger portion of your expenses in Texas. Make sure you're on top of that, making sure you're on top of your insurance renewal. If there's any sort of like insurance claims, your management company generally helps you out with that, but you should also stay on top of, processing any sort of, hail claims, or if you have a fire, grease fire, or whatever is going on the property that you're staying and involved with that. And then, just kind of keeping on top of all the KPIs that you have in the deal, making sure you're monitoring the rents that you guys have pro forma'd, and you stay on top of what's going on in the marketplace. And the management company is tracking to kind of your budget, or if they're off budget, why, what's going on, et cetera. So it's kind of a whole lot of that. And then there's obviously the reporting from there that goes back to the investors with all that. But it's basically kind of serving the ownership function, Paul, for the group is kind of what asset management is. Like you said, when you start out, you do everything, and when we get to a company in my firm size, that's when you can start bringing outside people to come be your employees that are going to help you serve a lot of these functions. Because as Paul mentioned, as a deal sponsor, the two highest and best uses of your time is to find deals and find money, and everything else is kind of noise distracting you from those two things. It's all really important. You need to execute, but find deals, find money is how you make money in this business.
Can you give me some additional examples of what some of the asset managers should be doing?
If you have a portfolio or one-off deal or portfolio, and you have an expired laundry contract, so you can certainly go in and try to negotiate either a laundry contract or maybe a marketing agreement with AT&T or Time Warner or somebody to get fiber cable, high-speed internet, and cable on your property, and you get a percentage of the revenue, or maybe even an upfront door fee on both the cable and the laundry. So do things like that. I mean, those are some of, I guess, I don't know if that answers your question, Paul, but those are some of the other things you do.
Yeah, so things that I kind of make the analogy of is that you are the admiral of the Navy. You are the admiral of the Navy, and then you're looking for the captains to, since the admiral oversees the ships, you're looking for captains to make sure that the crew is performing as efficient as possible. And as the admiral, you just can't go down to every ship and every property and take a look and make sure it's running well. You need somebody to oversee your properties. And that's probably the biggest thing, is that they stay on top. They should be at the properties. How many times a month should they be at the properties, Michael? I
mean, we try to have eyes on every one of our assets at least, once a month. So just kind of staying on top of it. You observe, things that might pop up, like deferred maintenance, or, maybe one of my personal pet peeves is if I drive around in the middle of the day and it's sunny and the wall packs on the building are on. That's you either got a bad photocell, or someone that was cleaning it put something over and it's just kind of covering up, and you're just burning electricity it's on the house meter. That's one of my personal pet peeves.
We're getting close to springtime. I was out at a property the other day, and they put these beautiful flowers out, and they spent a lot of money for the flowers. But one of the things that they forgot to do, or the landscaping crew forgot to do, is put pre-emergent down. So there's a lot of dandelions all over the property. So you spend money on this side of the house, but you're not spending enough money on that side of the house. You need somebody, when you get to the size, that oversees these properties, being the captain of the ship, being the captain of the property, overseeing the management company on the property, kind of give them tips about what you should be doing to improve the position of that property, the collateral in the submarket itself. These little tips, sometimes people forget the big picture when they're managing. They're dealing with tenants and toilets and the city, but they forget about the quality and condition of the asset. Just like if you were to improve your own house by forgetting to cut the grass or forgetting to trim the bushes and the trees, sometimes you need somebody to oversee the property. And that's what a lot of these asset managers do. And they kind of report back to the ownership of the group. And sometimes they have to hammer the management company. I don't want these people to be best friends between the management company and the asset manager. They should be task managers. They should be setting the pace on what we should expect out of the management company. You don't want to get too critical, but you just have to be just good enough to feel have that management company feel a little uncomfortable that they're not doing the job as well as they should be doing the job, and not take advantage of the ownership group or be complacent in the deal. So I think we've hammered that to death.
I think so.
So great piece. Michael, what's going on in the SPI world with that advisory business? I absolutely love what you guys do in that stuff.
Yeah, so, on top of our primary objective really is going out, locating high quality deals and, securing them and then going and syndicating the capital. So we do quite a bit of that. That's primarily what we focus on. But, if you have, $3-5 million in capital looking to do your own deal, but you don't have relationships or expertise or experience to get one done, we do what we call advisory services. So kind of help take your capital and our execution and go out to the marketplace and try to get some of these deals put together for some clients, kind of get a team built up and set up for them, and then kind of help them execute on it. So the most typical scenario that we do is if you're coming from California or New York or wherever, and you have a 1031 because you sold a fourplex or something, and you want to go buy a larger deal in Texas at more affordable basis on a price per unit and a little better yield, but you don't have relationships in the marketplace. That's something that we certainly can kind of help with. So if anyone wants to find out more information about that, or just generally kind of more about learn about what we do, I'm always happy to have a 10 or 15 minute telephone call with listeners of the podcast. The best way to really get a hold of us is just simply go to our company's website, which is www.spiadvisory.com. That's SPI like spy, advisory.com. There's a contact us form. Just fill that out. And I'm always happy to have a telephone call with listeners from the podcast.
Yeah, I love that advisory business because it's separate from what you guys really do. That's a syndication where everybody puts their money into one transaction. The advisory business is that if you have $3, $5, $6 million on the exchange, you guys go out and buy a property for the individual. You're not combining money together to buy one property and using everybody else's money. You're just buying it for that person. And SPI helps you to find the property, underwrite the property. Also, would you guys even manage or help?
We've done some work. Paul will stay on and kind of help asset manage post close, but or we just kind of get paid a fee and walk away. Either way, but at the same time we'll get you kind of help set up with a team and anything that you might need from vendors for property tax protests to property management, insurance, etc. That we have full. Obviously, we need all that for our business on the day-to-day standpoint. So we have a lot of relationships that we could certainly make introductions to as well.
That's great. Again, what's the name of the company?
Let's go to spiadvisory.com.
I love it. All right, that was Michael Becker. I'm Paul Peebles. Have a great day.